And we're back. Welcome back to those who watched earlier. Part 2. In this one, we're going to be looking at how we can check learning. So there's a number of apps and sites. So we're going to follow the pattern we followed earlier, where we're going to dive into the blog, pick up a couple of sites, and then go from there. So let's see if we can do this. So let's hit the share screen button and make a start. Where should we start? Let's start here. Okay, so let's bring up the blog. Okay, so in the top, I've got my left and my right way around, top right-hand corner should be 9 boxes. Click on those, and one of them will allow you to type in any questions that you may have as we progress through. As always with these, they will appear on my YouTube channel, and you can view them via my Google Plus profile page as well. So to start with, let's look at some of these. So checking learning, there's lots of ways to do it. I'm not going to bore you with how many ways there are to do that, but the first tool we're going to look at is Flip Quiz. We all like the idea of being able to run a quiz like we do like they do on the telly. Not all of us can grow beards like Noel Edmonds and lift up boxes with numbers in, but you can have a bit of showbiz pizzazz with this Flip Quiz. It does what it says on the tin, really. You create a quiz, and very similar to those who are old enough to remember Blockbuster, you can get your students to do a run through the different valued questions. So this is what it looks like at the end. You have a grid of numbers with themes at the top. They choose the particular theme and the difficulty level that they wish to have. So obviously the higher the number, the more difficult it is. It brings up the question. It then tells you what the answer is, but they all get a chance to put in their answers. So this is Flip Quiz. So let's have a quick look at that. So we log in, and you can log in with the usual suspects, your Twitter, your Google, or your Facebook accounts. Let's go with Google. As mentioned earlier, it means you don't have to keep remembering additional usernames and passwords. So you accept the conditions, and slowly but surely we will log in. As with a number of these sites, and especially with some of the ones I'm going to mention later on, there is option of a paid account, but we're going to stick with the free plan for the moment. You then need to populate your bits and bobs. And once you've done that, it brings up a very simple interface. You have your grid, you work out the title of each of your grids, you work out the values, and then you start adding your questions and your answers. And then the way it works, during your lesson, you bring up your quiz. The students choose a value and a question, a theme, and they answer a question. If they ask it correctly, the box goes solid color, and then they can hopefully get a line going from left to right as they answer all the questions. Staff who've used it, staff down in the engineering department have used it and said the students love it. They love the challenge, they like a bit of competition, and it's a great way to check what people have learned. So that's the first one, that's Flip Quiz. So back to the blog, and let's move on to number 2. So number 2, and it has to be said, and I try to be completely impartial with these things, this has to be my favorite one of the batch that I'm going to go through and share with you today. So let's dive into that one. Some of you will have already seen it if you've attended any of my face-to-face sessions. This is quizzes, and I know that various people within the room that I'm sat now have used it and think it's fab as well. So let's dive in and have a look at that. As opposed to me trying to explain it, we'll just let YouTube do its thing. So we'll press play, and hopefully you'll hear this and you will see what it is that we're doing. So I'll add some words on top of the music. In short, you create your quiz, you give the students a unique code, very much like you do in classroom. They enter that code from their mobile device, put in a username or nickname, and then you hit start game. They work through the questions at their own pace. You can set the length of time they get to answer a question. And here it goes. So you can see they're getting the questions, they hit their answers. You as a teacher can see the summary that you get in the middle as they progress through the quiz. At the end of the quiz, you have a summary sheet that you can download as Excel to show you what and how they answered. But it's a bit of fun. The fact that they have ever decreasing time to answer a question and they get less points the longer they take just adds to the excitement as the students work their way through the quiz. So let's just escape that and go and have a look at the site itself. So here we go, you get to quizzes, you click get started, and there are a number of pre-selected quizzes that you can use already, or to create your own one, click create and log in. So we'll just log in. So I can remember my password. Let's try one more variation on the theme. So we'll come back to that once I remember what my logon is. But in short, very easy interface. You add your question, you add your possible answers, you select the correct answer and how long they need, how long you want to give the students to answer the quiz. And you just repeat doing that. When you finish and you're ready to share it with your students, you give them the unique code, they enter that and their username, and off they start. And as I say, at the end, you get a results summary showing all of the responses they've made. You can see very easily where students have struggled with particular questions. So quizzes, as I said, at the moment is my favorite site for checking learning with your students. So back to the blog and try one more. So the last one is very similar to quizzes in that it's Kahoot, and some of you may have heard of that. So it works in a very similar way. You create your quiz or your discussion or your survey, you share a unique number with your students, they pick up that number on their mobile device, and when you've got all your learners signed up, you can then start your quiz, and it works very similar manner to quizzes. So let's go to Get Kahoot and have a look at the site. And we'll see how we get on with logging onto this one. But it's a very easy to use interface. You add your questions, add your possible responses. When you're ready to share it with the learners, you give them the unique code. The advantage of both quizzes and Kahoot is that the students don't need to download and add any software to their device. And in the majority of cases, especially with the younger students, we find that they haven't got the payment card attached to their device. It's mum and dad's payment card, so they don't have the rights to add apps themselves. So by using sites such as these, which they can just go to in the browser and not have to download anything, it means that they can start to respond to your quizzes without having to do that preparation of installing the app beforehand. So we'll try and log into this one. If that fails, we'll go to the last one on my selection. We're just signing in, it's going to take a minute. So let's start by having a go at creating a quiz. So we click on quiz. First, give it a name. We'll just call it me for the minute. Type in your first question and add your answers, choosing which ones are incorrect or correct and giving them a value, how many points. And you just keep working through that same process until you've added all of the questions that you want. You can also add a video, which will then have a question attached to it. When you've done all of that, you share it via the unique number code so the students can join it and respond via their mobile devices. So that is Kahoot. So we'll just check how we're doing for time. So a few more minutes. So moving on, back to the blog, and we'll choose one more. So the last one that we'll look at today is Socrates. Now, Socrates has been around for a while, but it's one of those packages that just continues to develop and become more fully featured. So we'll bring up Socrates. And it follows a similar pattern to quizzes and to Kahoot in that students can respond via their mobile device. So let's just toddle along. So you've got a student and a teacher login. Again, you can sign in with Google, which is good. It means you don't have to remember passwords. It'll ask you to fill in your profile. As with the other two, you have your room code, which is what you share with your learners. You share the room code with your learners. They can then access your quiz. If you go into manage quizzes, my quizzes, you can see all the quizzes that have been created. It's possible that you can share quizzes that you've created with other colleagues. So if you teach a similar subject to another colleague, you can create the quiz together and then both make use of it. So click on the create button. As with the previous one, name your quiz. You can choose multiple choice, true or false, or short answer. Work you through the way through adding your quiz. When you're happy and it's ready to share, you give the students the room number. They go to Socrates, they enter the room number, they can then access your quiz. As with the others, you'll get a results sheet to see how they responded. So there we've had it. We've had a few sites that we've looked at that can help you check learning. So from the top, we'll just recap the ones we looked at today. We've looked at Socrates, we looked at quizzes, we looked at Kahoot, and we've looked at Flip Quiz. There's more information on my blog about those. I hope you found that useful. Thank you for watching, and join me every Wednesday lunchtime for further hangouts on air. Thank you. Bye-bye.